Hi there, my name is Dr. Julie TwoMoon, and this is my introduction to adrenal fatigue. Adrenal fatigue is a big topic, and especially natural medicine circles. I can't count the number of times I've had patients come in and tell me that, their chiropractor, their massage therapist, their other alternative medicine doctors have all said that they have adrenal fatigue. And it's a term I think that gets used a little bit loosely, and I think very often we use the term and we don't delve deeper into what that really means. And what I found is that for each person, adrenal fatigue can mean vastly different things. The first thing that everyone should understand is that if you have any chronic illness whatsoever, and that means diabetes, if you have chronic migraines, if you have any kind of chronic pain, if you have ever had cancer, if you have chronic Lyme disease, if you have anything that has been going on for a protracted amount of time, you have adrenal fatigue. And that's a given. It doesn't take any testing to identify that that is the case. So when someone says, I think you probably have adrenal fatigue, in some ways that isn't a terribly educated response, because it is just something that happens to the body. It has been stressed for a very long time, and attempting to keep up and maintain order and allow you to go about your day without, completely falling apart. After a while, the adrenals are just going to become too tired to keep up. And the mechanism in that is that cortisol, norepinephrine, epinephrine are all neurotransmitters and hormones that are essential to keep you moving. And especially when you have chronic pain, cortisol gets used to try to minimize the inflammatory response as well as to keep you moving. And as a result, if that mechanism is being triggered every single day, then over time the adrenals are going to get too tired to keep up. And the same can be said about the hormones that modulate our nervous system. Norepinephrine and epinephrine are hugely involved in stress response, as is cortisol. And let's face it, Western lifestyle is the worst possible thing for moderating stress in the body. And most people really truly live lives that are far beyond what their physiology was capable of keeping up with. We as humans were designed to work hard. That's not an issue. But what happens is that our lives are traditionally sort of oriented around working extremely hard, whether we're playing or working. Generally, most people now seem to work much more than a 40-hour work week. It seems much more like 60 is the new normal. Our lives outside of work are busier than is sustainable, in my opinion, and we're so focused on being able to have what it appears to be relaxation time that once we finally get to our personal time, all those activities are themselves often very stressful. And that even comes down to how we exercise. Very often, the way people are exercising is actually a detriment to their adrenal health and their sympathetic nervous system and not a benefit. So when we come back to this idea about adrenal fatigue, it must be understood that the cause behind it is the most important thing. As I've just described, our lifestyle makes a huge impact. So if you haven't made adjustments to your lifestyle and someone has said that you have adrenal fatigue and you are simply taking adrenal support supplements and expecting it to change, you have no real hope that the pattern is ever going to fully change and be something that you can consider a done deal. Because in essence, you have a bucket, you are filling it with water while not having repaired the hole. So you must first fix the problem. Lifestyle is a major one, and not just our stress, which that must be moderated. Some of the most simple ways to do that are 10 minutes a day of meditation. Saying no is another big one. People very often just think that they have to keep up with every expected physical presentation of themselves that they're ever asked to do. That's just not true. Even when it comes to your children, for mothers and fathers that tend to overextend themselves, it is time societally for us to start saying no. More time spent being still, being present at home, eating nice, simple dinners as a family instead of everyone rushing in all different directions is imperative to solving the problem of chronically stressed adrenal glands. And I come back to meditation because I can't stress it enough. 10 minutes leading up to hopefully more like 30 minutes a day of meditation will have dramatic effects on calming the nervous system, diminishing excess cortisol production, repairing the stressed adrenal gland itself. But the other thing that we have to start to think about in terms of stress is dietary factors. The impact of genetically modified foods, chronic intoxication from pesticides, chronic intoxication from fluoride in the water supply are all significant stress factors to the body. And in my honest opinion, I don't believe that it's possible to adequately heal any part of the endocrine or nervous system as long as genetically modified foods are still being put into the body on a daily basis. I think that they pose one of the most serious threats that we have ever faced for solving health problems in the history of humankind. And that being said, a lot of the supplements that are being used for adrenal fatigue in fact contain genetically modified ingredients, as genetically modified substances are some of the biggest substrates for vitamin manufacture. So it's important that people become aware, if they're concerned about their adrenal health, not just about taking supplements, not just about their diet, but how all of that plays together, and ensuring that if you are in fact going to take a B complex, if you're going to take an adaptogenic mix, that they are GMO free. And if the company that you've been using can't certify that, then just assume that they in fact do contain genetically modified ingredients. Now, coming to the cause of adrenal fatigue, other than excess stress through lifestyle, through diet, through chemical contamination in our daily life, there's also the issue of chronic infections, another largely overlooked realm in medicine. Natural medicine pays some attention to it, but I really feel that chronic infections make such a huge difference. I know in my practice I see a lot of patients who've been sick a very long time because of the effect of chronic infections, and unless they're adequately dealt with, that will persist. Candida, of course, is a big buzz topic. Everybody thinks that they have candida, and that may be true, but candida, I think, has been given an inappropriate top stance among the natural medicine community because, in fact, candida is naturally present in the body, and an overgrowth of candida may actually show that your body is still attempting to solve the problem, whereas organisms such as Lyme and toxoplasmosis, those are not naturally occurring organisms, and if they are in fact present, they will be a chronic drain on the system. So being evaluated for chronic organisms is also imperative. And then implementing treatment strategies that not only address cortisol levels, because a salivary cortisol panel can show immense, benefit as far as being able to monitor how the cortisol changes, but most people with adrenal fatigue have one of two patterns. One is that they have chronically high nighttime cortisol, or they have chronically low cortisol all day long. And in either case, you're going to need to bring up cortisol levels. Now, a lot of practitioners like to use hormone-related treatments for this. It's not my favorite. I'm much more inclined to go the route of restoring the terrain by using homeopathic drainage, gemotherapy, sanum therapy, classically blended Chinese herbs, and acupuncture, and then dietary and lifestyle modification. A note on herbs that's important to recognize is that the adaptogenic herbs that are commonly used to boost the adrenals, ginseng and astragalus, can be very detrimental if you have chronic infections. Just because something provides energy to the body does not mean that it's necessarily going to enhance your adrenals, and the reason is that the organisms themselves fully understand how to use those herbs for energy. So in some cases of chronic infections, you're actually tonifying the pathogen instead of tonifying your cells. And sometimes there's this odd this leeway period where the body does actually have enhanced energy production, and the person starts to feel quite a bit better. And that can last from weeks to months, where there's an improvement in energy to be then followed by a sudden crash. And those come very unexpectedly, and it's very frustrating for the patients. But those adaptogenic herbs do have that effect and should be used only with extreme caution. I no longer use ginseng even in my classically blended formulas, and find that the modern body is not so akin to making good use of it. That added to the fact that it's very hard to find truly clean ginseng. Most of it has been so incredibly laden with pesticides that it is a toxicity risk itself. So I give great caution to that. And the other caution that I give is that people undergoing programs to deal with chronic organisms, to deal with candida, it is very popular to use very cold, bitter herbs in those programs. That will further deplete the adrenals. And sometimes those are then combined with DHEA and sometimes testosterone, pregnenolone, in order to support energy production. But that is a very complicated stew once all of those things are put together, and I really do find that it taxes the body over the long term rather than enhances it. The goal is the adrenals are never isolated. The thyroid is always involved, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, and the entire extracellular matrix. It is impossible to just treat adrenal fatigue. It is, in my view, it can border on being negligent to just treat adrenal fatigue and not look further for the cause. So if you're a patient who's been being treated for this for a long time, I urge you to please start to look at other causes, start to see what other contributing factors are there. If you haven't changed your lifestyle, do that as your first step. Modify your diet. The only way to know you're GMO-free is to go 100% organic. And then look at the supplements you're taking. Taking large doses of not steroids, but of natural hormones, including cortisol and pregnenolone, DHEA, progesterone, estrogen, over a long period of time, it's not a solution, it's a Band-Aid. You're pretending that the situation has improved when in fact very often it hasn't. It is necessary to return the cells to normal function. Your mitochondria need to come back online, and you need to start having hormonal balance without copious amounts of support. My name is Dr. Julie TwoMoon. This is my short video on adrenal fatigue, the ins and outs, and what you can do about it.